interesting stories that are well known in the seerah. And let us begin with the expedition of Muhammad ibn Maslama to Al-Qurta, Muhammad ibn Maslama to Al-Qurta. And this was a minor expedition, a Sariyah, involving 30 of the Sahaba that were dealing with the tribe of Banu Bakr ibn Kilab in the 6th year of the Hijrah, most likely in the month of Shawwal. Now, the expedition was a success. They did what they were supposed to do, and on the way back, something interesting happened. So the story is actually not about the expedition, but about a minor incident that is an interesting story and a beautiful story. And that is that when they're returning from conquering this tribe was a rebellious tribe, so they conquered them, and they're coming back. They came across a small convoy, and something seemed strange. Something did not seem right about this convoy. We're not told what, but most likely, Allah knows best, this is my assumption, most likely there were clearly the signs of this being an elite or a noble or a rich group of people, and they don't know who they were. And so they brought them as prisoners to the Prophet ﷺ, and they did not even realize whom they had captured. And when they brought the people to the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ asked them, "Do you not know who your prisoner is?" They said, "Who?" And he said that you have captured Sumama Ibne Assal. Sumama Ibne Assal. Sumama Ibne Assal was the chieftain of the tribe of Banu Hanifa. And the Banu Hanifa were one of the largest tribes of Arabia. So this is like somebody like Abdul Muttalib type of figure, like the big guy. He is a very senior figure, and he is the chieftain of the tribe that is basically the size of Quraysh. This is the Banu Hanifa. This is a massive tribe, and it is a tribe in central Arabia. And Thumama just happened to be on a convoy, we'll understand why in a while, that was not guarded. He didn't have his typical bodyguards. He's just going in a small group, and some things didn't seem right. So on the way back, they took these people and they brought them to the Prophet ﷺ. And Thumama, of course, he had a clear position before this time. He's not neutral in the war. He was supporting the pagans against Islam. And he had publicly threatened to kill the Prophet if he ever could, because he's of the enemy tribe, Banu Hanifa. He's not a sympathetic tribe. And so the Prophet ﷺ made a dua to Allah, this is beforehand, and he said that, "Oh Allah, allow me to have power, to have control over Thumama. Allow me an opportunity to be in control over Thumama." And of course, this was the dua of the Prophet ﷺ being answered, right? That literally, Thumama came to him unexpectedly as a prisoner of war. And the companions did not recognize him, and the Prophet ﷺ recognized him. Obviously, Allah Azza wa Jalla told him through Jibreel, this is Sumama Ibne Assal. And so the Prophet ﷺ commanded the Sahaba, treat him well. And so there was no prison at that time. There was no, there's no place to keep them. So they kept him in the masjid. And in order that he is safe, they tied his hand basically to the pillar or something so that he cannot escape. So he is a prisoner in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. And on that evening, the Prophet ﷺ told his wives to send his own food to Thumama. Now, the Prophet ﷺ's food would not have been better than what the Sahaba are cooking, but it's a symbolic gesture. It's a token that when the messenger would have come, he would have said, "This is from the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, this is his food to you." So he's sending him his personal, if you like, plate, or a share of his personal plate. He's sending it to Thumama. The next day in the morning, he goes to Thumama and he says, "Mada indaka ya Thumama? What do you have to tell me? What do you have to say?" And so Thumama answers, "Ya Muhammad ﷺ, in taqtul dha dam. وإن تنعم على شاكر وإن تريد الدنيا وإن تريد الفداء فسل ما شئت فسل ما بدا لك يا محمد إن تقتل ذا دم." If you're gonna kill me, you're gonna kill somebody whose blood is very heavy. I'm not anybody here. I am the chieftain. You're gonna have a civil war on your hands. إن تقتل ذا دم وإن تنعم, and if you are generous, تنعم على شاكر, you're going to be generous to somebody who recognizes and will repay you back. And if you want money, then ask whatever you want and you have your price. Now this shows you this guy is not begging for life. This shows you this man is a noble man. He has dignity. In all sense, he's a royal. I mean, there's no royalty, but you get the point here. This is the chieftain. You kill me, go ahead, kill me, but realize you're going to kill somebody whose blood is worth a lot. You forgive me, you will forgive, and somebody who recognizes a favor will pay you back. And if you want money, that's what you're interested in, believe me, I can offer you all that you want. So the Prophet ﷺ advised him to accept Islam, and Sumama did not say anything. So the Prophet ﷺ let him that day. Next day, the same thing happened. In the morning, the second morning, the same thing happened. ماذا عندك يا ثمامة? What do you have to say for yourself? The exact same phrase. So the Prophet let him be. The third day, the exact same sentence, the exact same response. 3 days he's keeping in the masjid. Now the reports don't tell us, but it's understood, it's obvious. What is he going to see in the masjid? What's he doing in the masjid? What do you think he's going to be absorbing in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ for 76 hours, right? He's staying there for 3 days and something. And he's staying there. What do you think he's going to be hearing? The salah of the Prophet ﷺ, the Quran of the Prophet ﷺ. No doubt the Prophet ﷺ had his durus, his halaqat, his conversations with the Sahaba as he did. And Thumama sitting back there and he's just being ignored. But what do you think is the wisdom or the point of having Thumama in the masjid? You see for yourself what our religion is. So for 3 days he's kept, and in the meantime the Prophet ﷺ is hoping he'll accept. But Thumama does not accept. At the end of the third day, the Prophet ﷺ, when he still said the exact same thing, then the Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba, go release Thumama, let him go. Khalas, cut off his rope. So they cut him off, and Thumama stood up and exited the masjid. And he went behind a grove of date palms, and he took a bath. And then he walked back in 10 minutes later and he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu annaka rasulullah. And then he said, Ya Muhammad. He's still addressing him by his first name because he hasn't learned the etiquettes yet. Right? He's still addressing him by his first name. Even though he's a Muslim, he doesn't start Ya Rasulullah right now because he's still new. Cut him some slack. Ya Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I swear by Allah that there was no face in this whole world that was more despised to me and more hated to me than your face. But now, wallahi, it is the most beautiful and the most beloved face to me. And I swear by Allah, there was no religion that was more despised to me than your religion. But now, wallahi, it is the most beloved religion to me. And I swear by Allah, there was no city that I hated more than your own city. I couldn't imagine going to your city. But I swear by Allah, now it is the most beloved city to me. Look, 3 days, all it took to see what is the reality of the Prophet ﷺ, of Medina, of the Sahaba, of Islam. And then he explained what the story was. He said, I was on my way to do Umrah. This explains now he's not in an army, he's not in a tijara expedition that requires bodyguards. He expected nobody would be, the Quraysh would not possibly harm him. And he wasn't expecting the Muslims to be so far north because this was an expedition coming back, remember, right? So he wasn't expecting the Muslims to be in the middle of nowhere. It just so happened, literally crisscrossing the desert, just a complete coincidence, obviously Allah had decreed it, that the Muslims are coming back and they cross him right as he's coming down to Mecca. And so he says, I was intending to do Umrah. Should I now continue my Umrah, now that I'm a Muslim? And so the Prophet ﷺ said, yes, go back, go and continue your Umrah. And that evening the Sahaba brought him his supper or meal again. And because the Prophet ﷺ had told them to be generous with him, so they were giving him luxurious foods, the best of Medina, large quantities and everything. This is how the POWs were treated, that he was getting better food than the Sahaba and even the Prophet ﷺ. And they brought him the usual large trays. And he just ate a little bit and that was it. And they were astonished that this was a man for the last 3 days. He's been consuming all of these varieties of food, all of this quantity of food. And now today he's just eating a little bit. So the Prophet ﷺ said, why are you astonished? What are you amazed at? A man ate in the morning with the stomach of a kafir. And now he is eating at night with the stomach of a Muslim. And verily, the kafir eats with 7 stomachs. And the Muslim eats with 1 stomach. SubhanAllah, the Islam had an automatic impact even on his personal habits, even on his manners of eating and drinking, that he was content with a smaller quantity of food. And Thumama proceeded onwards to Mecca, where